The castle was filled with music, laughter, and clinking glasses, but Princess Elara stood by the tall window, watching the lanterns float across the midnight sky. Her heart felt like glass in her chest, fragile, transparent, and dangerously close to shattering. No one noticed the princess, who smiled politely and nodded at her father's guests. No one saw the way her fingers dug into her gown, holding herself together. She was surrounded by people yet swallowed by silence. From the day she was born, Elara was told she was blessed, born to rule, adored by the kingdom, the jewel of her father's empire. But behind the golden crown was a girl who longed for something far simpler. She wanted to be seen, not as a symbol or a duty, but as herself. The more people worshipped the princess, the lonelier she became. That night, as the celebrations roared, Elara whispered to herself, "What is the worth of a crown if it crushes the soul beneath it?" The weight of loneliness. Elara's days were a cycle of ceremonial duties. She smiled at children in the village, blessed soldiers before battle, and dined with visiting lords who spoke to her father as though she were invisible. When she tried to share her thoughts, her father waved her words aside. "You must learn to listen, not to be heard," King Alden told her once, his tone gentle but firm. A princess is a figure of grace, not opinion. That sentence became her cage. At night, she wrote in secret journals. Pages upon pages of questions she dared not ask aloud. What if I am not meant for this throne? What if love is more important than duty? What if I wish to escape? The only soul who seemed to notice her unrest was her maid, Leora, a spirited young woman who had grown up alongside Elara. Leora sometimes caught her staring out of the window, her face pale with longing. "You're thinking too loudly again," Leora teased one night as she brushed Elara's hair. Elara laughed softly. "Is it so obvious?" "Only to someone who cares enough to look." It was such a small reply, but it warmed Elara's chest. Still, the loneliness clung to her like a shadow. The mysterious stranger. One evening, during a masquerade ball, Elara slipped away into the palace gardens, desperate for air. Among the roses and moonlight, she found a man sitting by the fountain, mask pushed aside. His clothes were plain compared to the jeweled finery inside, yet his posture was proud, his expression curious. "You don't belong out here," Elara said, startled. "Neither do you," he replied, his voice calm but sharp. Something in his tone intrigued her. For the first time in years, someone had spoken to her not as a princess, but as a person. They talked, first about trivial things, then about books, the stars, the taste of freedom. His name was Kale, a traveler who had managed to slip into the ball under borrowed silk. He carried no title, no family crest, yet his eyes held the kind of honesty Elara had craved. Over the following weeks, they met in secret. With him, she was not Princess Elara but simply Elara. She learned of the world beyond the castle walls, mountains that kissed the clouds, markets bursting with color, villages where laughter drowned out sorrow. But their closeness carried danger. If her father discovered Kale, he would brand him a traitor. The first betrayal. One night, Leora confronted her. "You've been slipping away," Leora said softly. "You think I wouldn't notice?" "Who is he?" Elara's breath caught. Leora was the only person she trusted, but fear tangled her tongue. "He's no one," Elara lied. But Leora's gaze was sharp, wounded. "I thought we promised never to keep secrets." The words cut deep. For the first time, Elara felt the sharp edge of betrayal, not from Kale, but from herself. She had chosen secrecy over trust, and it pained her more than she expected. The king's demand. Just as her heart struggled between Kale and Leora, King Alden summoned her. "It is time," he announced, his voice echoing in the throne room. "The council has chosen your betrothal. You will marry Lord Davin within the month. He will strengthen our alliances and secure the crown." Elara's world tilted. Lord Davin was twice her age, a man who spoke to her as if she were a child. The thought of a loveless union crushed her spirit. "Father, please," she whispered. "I don't love him." "Love," the king replied coldly, "is a luxury. Duty is eternal. The choice." That night, Elara fled to Kale, trembling with desperation. "They're forcing me to marry him," she said, tears streaking her face. "I can't breathe, Kale. I can't live like this." Kale's jaw tightened. "Then leave. Come with me. Tonight. We'll escape before dawn. There is a world waiting for you beyond these walls." Her heart leapt at the thought of freedom. But guilt gnawed at her. Leaving meant betraying her father, her kingdom, and perhaps even Leora. "What if I abandon everything only to regret it?" Elara asked, her voice cracking. Kale took her hands. "The only thing you will regret is never trying." The twist. The night of her betrothal feast arrived. Elara wore her crown, her face a mask of serenity. But beneath the table, her fists clenched. The moment came when Lord Davin rose to toast their union. Elara stood, trembling, and spoke words that froze the hall. "I will not marry you." Gasps rippled across the room. The king's face hardened. But before anyone could react, the guards dragged Kale into the hall, bloodied and bound. "He was caught trying to flee the castle with stolen jewels," one guard announced. Elara's heart stopped. Kale, the man who had promised freedom, now stood accused of treachery. She searched his eyes, desperate for a sign. "Tell me it isn't true," she whispered. Kale's silence was louder than any denial. Shattered illusions. The king's fury was swift. "You see, Elara," he thundered. "This is what comes of chasing illusions. He wanted your crown, not your heart." Kale finally spoke, his voice hoarse. "I never wanted your crown." He paused, his gaze breaking. "Only you." But the guards dragged him away before he could explain. Elara's world collapsed. Had she been blinded by longing? Had she mistaken her loneliness for love? She no longer knew. The final choice. Days passed. Kale awaited execution. Elara was confined to her chambers, her journals confiscated. Leora visited once, her expression unreadable. "You look at me as though I've betrayed you," Elara said bitterly. Leora's eyes softened. "Not betrayed. I just wish you had trusted me sooner. Perhaps then you wouldn't be so alone." The words pierced deeper than any sword. That night, Elara made her decision. She would not let her father define her, nor her loneliness consume her. She snuck into the dungeons, her resolve firm. When she found Kale, his eyes widened in shock. "I came to set you free," she whispered. "But whether you lied or not, I cannot follow you. I must find my own path." She unlocked his chains. "Go. Live. But I will not abandon my kingdom for a dream I no longer believe in." Kale touched her hand, regret burning in his eyes, but he said nothing. He vanished into the shadows, leaving Elara with her crown, and her solitude. Conclusion. In the weeks that followed, Elara refused the betrothal. Her father raged, but she stood her ground. Slowly, she began to carve her own place in the council, her voice no longer silenced. She reached for Leora, rebuilding their trust. But at night, when the castle was quiet, Elara still stood at the window, gazing at the lanterns in the sky. She wondered where Kale had gone, and whether his feelings had been true. She was still lonely, but no longer powerless. And in that loneliness, she found a strange strength. For the first time, she was not just a princess. She was Elara, flawed, uncertain.